I couldn't ignore the growing tension and the way they seemed to sneak around when they thought no one was watching. My suspicions grew even more, but I was still torn. At this point, my family was completely on Marie's side. They had always seen her as the golden child, the perfect one, and I was always the outsider. I didn't want to create more conflict, so I continued to stay quiet, but the guilt of knowing the truth was eating me up inside. Then, one day, things took a dramatic turn. Marie's marriage to Lucas fell apart, and the divorce was finalized. My family, as expected, blamed Lucas for everything, even though I knew deep down that Marie had played a significant role in the breakdown of their relationship. I kept my distance, not wanting to get involved, but eventually, my family turned on me. They blamed me for the divorce, accusing me of not doing enough to help Marie, of not stepping in to save her marriage. I was stunned. How could they not see the truth? I had tried to stay out of it, but they couldn't see it from my perspective. For the next 3 years, I was ostracized from my family. I was the black sheep, the one who couldn't be trusted. It hurt so much to be blamed for something I had no control over, especially when I had kept my mouth shut to avoid hurting anyone. Then, out of nowhere, I heard from Marie again. She reached out to me, asking for help. She was working at McDonald's and struggling with her life, and it seemed like she was finally hitting rock bottom. She admitted that things had fallen apart, but still, she didn't take responsibility for her actions. Instead, she blamed everyone else. She said Lucas had ruined her life and that my family had abandoned her. I was skeptical, but I agreed to help. However, just as I was about to offer her some support, I learned something truly shocking. Marie had been cheating on Lucas with none other than Liam, the same guy who had been coming around the house all those years. I was crushed. Not only had I been blamed for something I didn't do, but now I found out that Marie was still making the same reckless choices that had destroyed her marriage in the first place. She had never truly faced the consequences of her actions. And I felt betrayed all over again. It's hard to know what to do now. Part of me wants to walk away and never look back, but another part of me feels responsible for helping her, even though I know she hasn't changed. I'm torn between loyalty to my family, who will likely expect me to help her, and the reality of the situation, which makes me question whether I should be there for her at all. Have you ever been in a situation where someone you cared about made terrible choices and you felt stuck between loyalty and doing what's best for yourself? To offer her support, I stumbled upon a truth that shook me to my core. One evening, I was at a local cafe catching up with an old friend of mine when Marie's name came up in conversation. The guy I was talking to casually mentioned that he had seen her around town, working at McDonald's, and that she was living with some guy. It seemed odd at first, but what really hit me was the way he described her. She was always acting like everything was fine, but he'd overheard some strange things when she was with this guy, things that made him wonder about her past. I didn't think much of it, but a part of me couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. A few days later, I decided to dig a little deeper into the situation. I wasn't sure why, but I felt like I needed to know the truth, even if it hurt. After all, my family was still blaming me for the divorce and pushing me to fix things with Marie. So, I decided to track down Liam. The guy I had always suspected was more than just a friend to her. I reached out to one of my cousins who had some connections in town and asked if they could get in touch with Liam. A few days later, they came back with information that turned everything upside down. Apparently, Marie had been seeing Liam even while she was still married to Lucas. And not just in secret. She had been playing both sides, acting as though she was a victim of Lucas's controlling ways. All the while, she was building a life with Liam behind everyone's back. To make matters worse, I found out that not only had she been unfaithful, but she had manipulated everyone around her, including me. She had convinced my family that Lucas was the sole reason her marriage fell apart, and they believed it without question. In reality, she was the one who had destroyed it, and I had been too scared to speak up when I had the chance. That moment hit me hard. I had spent years believing I had no say in the matter, that I was too insignificant to make a difference. But now I realized how much power I had given away, letting myself be treated like the outsider, the scapegoat, while Marie continued to play the victim card. And even when I saw her in a tough spot, struggling with her life choices, I couldn't help but feel like I was once again being pulled into her drama. Marie's request for help wasn't out of genuine need. It was a last-ditch effort to fix her situation by using me again. She didn't want to take responsibility for the mess she had made. She just wanted a way out, a quick fix to her problems. I had to make a decision. Do I continue to play the role of the dutiful brother, even if it meant sacrificing my own peace of mind? Or do I stand up for myself and finally take control of my own life, no longer allowing myself to be manipulated by her or anyone else in my family? I knew what I had to do, but it wasn't going to be easy. The next time I saw Marie, I wasn't going to offer her the help she expected. I had to let her face the consequences of her actions, and for once, I had to put myself first. It wasn't about cutting her off. It was about learning how to protect myself, how to stop being the pawn in someone else's game. My family might not understand, but I couldn't keep carrying the weight of their expectations. And as for Marie, I could only hope that one day she would wake up and realize the damage she had done, not just to Lucas, but to me and everyone around her. The truth had set me free, but it also meant I had to let go of the idea of a perfect family. And that was something I could finally accept. Staying silent, thinking that maybe, just maybe, she'd turn things around and take responsibility for her actions. But all she had done was manipulate everyone, including me. I remember feeling this deep, heavy weight in my chest when I realized the truth, not just about what happened with Lucas and Marie, but about the entire family dynamic. I had always been the outsider, the one who kept quiet, the one who wasn't good enough to be the golden child. I had always tried to do what was right, yet my family never saw it. They saw Marie's perfection, her charm, and her ability to twist things in her favor. And in the end, I was the one who took the blame. When I found out about Marie's real story with Liam, everything changed. I couldn't stay silent anymore. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I couldn't keep carrying the guilt of knowing the truth and pretending I didn't. So, I confronted Marie. I called her out on everything. I told her I knew about the affair, about how she had ruined her marriage and manipulated our family into believing it was all Lucas's fault. I didn't yell, I didn't scream, I just told her the truth, plain and simple. She tried to deny it at first, but I was relentless. I had the facts now. I wasn't that scared little kid anymore who had been afraid to speak up. When she realized I wasn't backing down, she got defensive, even angry. She accused me of betraying her, of turning my back on her when she needed me most. But I didn't back down. I told her I was done enabling her, done letting her destroy everyone's lives for her own benefit. It wasn't easy, and it hurt. But for the first time in my life, I felt like I was standing up for myself and for the truth. I told her that I wouldn't help her anymore, not unless she was willing to own up to what she had done and stop blaming everyone else for her mistakes. When I told my family what I'd learned, it was like the ground cracked beneath my feet. They were in disbelief at first. I'm so sorry you're going through something so traumatic. Some of them still tried to defend her, and I can feel the intensity of your emotions. Slowly, just by reading about what you've experienced, things began to shift. The cruelty of what you've been dealing with from your neighbor's son is not the golden child, and losing your dog someone who had made her own choices and deliberate way and now had to face the consequences. Devastating. It wasn't a perfect resolution, and I didn't get the closure I thought I'd get. Marie still blamed me for everything that went wrong, still tried to play the victim. But I realized something important through all of this. I couldn't change her, and I couldn't control how my family reacted. What mattered was that I had taken control of my own story. I had stopped hiding in the shadows and started standing up for the truth. And for once, I was proud of myself for doing that. It's been a while since then. I've rebuilt my life, slowly but surely. And while things with Marie and the rest of my family are still strained, I don't regret speaking out. I've learned that no matter how hard it is, the truth always finds its way to the surface. And when it does, you have to be strong enough to face it, even if it means losing people along the way. After that confrontation, I didn't know what to expect. Part of me hoped Marie would see reason, maybe understand the hurt she had caused, but deep down, I knew she wasn't the type to admit her mistakes, and she didn't. Instead, she doubled down on her narrative. She played the victim, said I was being cruel for bringing everything to light, that I was trying to tear her down when she was already struggling. She painted herself as the one who had been wronged by everyone, including me. It was a punch to the gut, but I stood firm. I told her I wasn't going to enable her anymore. I couldn't keep being her scapegoat. It was time for her to face the consequences of her own actions. In the weeks that followed, I distanced myself. I had already been disconnected from the rest of the family, but now the rift felt even wider. My parents didn't understand why I was being so harsh on Marie. They still thought she was just going through a rough patch, that she needed me to help her back up. But I realized something. My family, just like Marie, didn't truly see me. They saw me as the one who would always sacrifice for everyone else, the one who would take the blame, take the hit, to keep the peace. And I was done with it. I spent the next few months reflecting on my own life. I started to rebuild my sense of self. I didn't have to be the quiet one anymore. I didn't need to be the one who stayed in the background while everyone else got what they wanted. It was time for me to focus on myself, on my own healing, and start creating a life that I could be proud of. And then, just when I thought I was starting to heal, I heard from Marie again. She reached out, not asking for help this time, but to apologize, sort of. She said she realized her mistakes, that she had been selfish, and that she was sorry for how she treated me. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was enough to give me a moment of clarity. I realized that she wasn't really asking for forgiveness, but she was acknowledging that maybe, just maybe, she had done some things wrong. It wasn't a clean resolution. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was progress. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like I could move forward without carrying the weight of the past on my shoulders. It wasn't a real apology. It felt more like an attempt to clear her own conscience, to make herself feel better without taking full responsibility for what she'd done. She still didn't own up to the depth of her actions, the lies, and the pain she'd caused. She was trying to patch things up without doing the real work. I listened to her, but I wasn't swayed. I told her that while I appreciated her reaching out, it wasn't enough to undo the damage. I wasn't going to just forgive her because she'd realized her mistakes after everything had already crumbled. Forgiveness, for me, had to come with real change, not just words, not just guilt. Marie seemed frustrated by my response. She said she couldn't change the past, but that she wanted to make amends, that she wanted us to rebuild our relationship. But I couldn't help but feel like she was asking for something more. She was asking for me to play the same role I had before, to take the blame for everything and to smooth things over so she wouldn't have to face the full consequences of her actions. I told her I wasn't willing to go back to that. I had spent too long putting everyone else's needs first, bending over backwards for people who didn't truly see me. I wasn't going to sacrifice my own peace just to make her feel better. That was the turning point for me. It wasn't about cutting Marie out of my life entirely, but about creating boundaries. I told her that if she truly wanted to rebuild our relationship, she needed to show me that she had changed, not just through empty apologies, but through actions. She needed to show me that she was ready to face the consequences of her choices, and that she wasn't going to manipulate me or anyone else to get what she wanted anymore. I don't know if Marie will ever fully change. I don't know if she'll ever really take responsibility for what she did. But I know now that I can't be the person I was before. I'm not the person who hides in the background, who takes on the burden of everyone else's mistakes. I'm not the person who gets blamed for things I didn't do just because it's easier for others to point fingers. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm standing on my own 2 feet. And I'm not going to let anyone, including Marie or my family, make me feel less than.